Hey fellas, been a long time since I've seen you. Where you been? Oh wait, that's me. I've been absent. I've been doing a lot of fall cleaning, cleaning out the back deck and the garage and doing some other stuff. I kind of got into cleaning ancient Roman coins lately. Ordered a bunch of dirty old coins from eBay and cleaned them, and it's been kind of fun trying to identify where they come from, and it's just kind of neat to hold a piece of history in your hand. A lot of the coins that I got were from like, the first century AD, second century. And, it's amazing that something that old ended up in my house in Illinois. It's kind of neat. So anyway, I've been doing a little bit of that. I've also been doing a little bit of modeling. I finally built my 1/72nd scale Bondi perfect grade Millennium Falcon. I'll show you that here in a minute. It's one that I'm going to keep, and I got it for a Christmas present a couple years ago, and been wanting to build it for a while, and finally took some time to build it, and I really enjoyed it. It didn't really take me that long. It was about a week, but I didn't do a video just because there are a ton of videos out there on that particular kit, so I really didn't have anything else to add. But and with my channel, for some of the new viewers, I like to do things that are a little bit different than what everybody else is doing. And this particular video is going to be on the 1/32 Ta-183 Huckebein, blah blah blah, LEM kit. And apparently this was a German aircraft that was in development just prior to the end of the war. This is an all resin kit. It's kind of an oddball, rare type kit. And we'll take a look at it here in a minute, but I've already got this one sold. This was actually, I don't take commissions during the winter months, but one of the guys that I build for, he showed me this, and I said, yeah, go ahead and kind of give me something different to do, and it looked interesting. So I told him I'd go ahead and do it. And I don't know, it looks like a pretty interesting kit. Not a whole lot to it, but well, let's take a look at it. Well, here, let me show you my Bondi Millennium Falcon. It's sitting up in its permanent perch on my display cabinet. Here it is. Now, I decided to go ahead and build this one in flight. I glued a lot of the parts. I hadn't... they have this so you can put the landing gear down and do all that other kind of stuff, but for me it's just going to be a static display. I'm not going to mess with it a whole lot. There are lights in it, and I ended up putting the plastic. I know a lot of people that build this model leave the canopy like the studio model, which means without the glass, but I decided to put the glass in there. All this stuff, Bondi gives you the little decals to put on here. I didn't use those. They're kind of really thick and really hard to put down, so I didn't mess with those. And since I wasn't putting the landing gear down, I was able to use the lights and add lights into the turret gunner position. And here is the back, if I can get down in there. But I really enjoyed this one. I think it really turned out cool. I painted the base. That's all done with cutting out mask with my Cricut. And then to get the stars, I just put some white Tamiya paint in my airbrush, turned the air pressure down to like 5 pounds, and squirted it out. And I got all these little different sized droplets, which I think turned out really cool. So there it is. I'm really happy with it. I think it looks cool. I'll probably leave it right there on my display cabinet just because I like looking at it. So, all right, let's get on with why we're here. Okay, so here it is. And again, for those of you that have never heard of this, like myself, this is a LEM kits, and it's the 1/32 Ta-183. And I've done just a little bit of research on it, and I don't think they actually built up a model. Some other country, I think, may have built one up after the war, a similar one. I'm not really sure. But the Germans had just made a wind tunnel model. at the end of by the time the war ended. So it's a really short, weird looking plane. And with this kit, the fuselage comes in 2 halves, and it looks pretty simple to put together. The resin is real thin. I like that. A lot of the resin kits that I've done lately are just kind of real thick and kind of, you have to do a lot of hogging out material. But this one looks pretty good. And from what I've read online, the few people that I've seen build it, it goes together pretty well. And the fit is pretty good. So I've got the 2 fuselage halves. The wings, the molding is really good. With any resin kit, you're going to have cleanup, but it really doesn't look that bad. The wings both look pretty straight. I am going to have to pin the wings because I am shipping this. So I'm going to have to figure a way to make the wings sturdy on here. Otherwise, you're just going to have the wing glued, and that's not going to be strong enough for when I ship it and for when it's displayed. Because the guy that I built this for likes most of his planes built on a stand, so that's what we're doing with this one, in flight on a stand. Now, the fuselage halves don't have any openings, so if you want to add the if you want to add the landing gear, what you have to do is you have to cut out the openings, and then they give you, what is it? Like for the bomb bay or missile bay or whatever it is, and all these bay doors that you'd have to use. But since we're not doing that, it's not that big of a deal. One thing with this kit is it comes with this CDR, and I assume that the instructions are on here. However, when I stuck it in my computer, it wouldn't pull anything up, so I don't know if something's wrong with my computer or there's something wrong with the CD. So I don't have any instructions, but I pulled up a few pictures online, and I think I can figure it out because there's not a whole lot to this. You've got the cockpit tub, the seat, the seat bucket, and I think this little doohickey goes on here like this. The only other thing that I really need to figure out is the engine, how it all goes together. But none of this is going to be seen since I am closing it up. So I might not even mess with this part. There is an intake, which is a 2-piece intake. And it will go up in front of the plane, like so. And then there is this piece back here that's got the fan in it, which I believe goes back in here, or like right here. So I may not even have to mess with putting an engine in there. That way I can fiddle around and decide how I'm going to put my rod into the fuselage. And so it's probably best if I just leave that part out since you're not going to see it anyway. One thing that I thought was really cool, I've never seen this before, but if you were going to put the landing gear on, it looks like what they've done is they've put little copper rods and molded the resin around the copper rods for these little actuators and pistons and stuff in the landing gear. So that is something I have never seen. Here's, I assume this is the rear landing gear. It's got a copper rod molded all the way in it. Let me shine some light down here, which is pretty cool. If I was going to put landing gear down, that'd be kind of neat just to see how that works out. Everything else is pretty self-explanatory. So basically it's going to be cleaning it up, figuring out exactly where all these pieces go together. It doesn't look too difficult, so I don't foresee that to be a big problem. They do give you 2 vacuum-formed canopies in case I screw one up. And then it looks like there is the instrument panel. I won't need to paint it because it looks like they've already got this little clear part in there that's kind of painted up already, which is kind of neat. So, oh, one other thing, I've got this cool little light, so now I don't have to complain about light, and it comes with this little magnifying glass. I was using this to clean out my Roman coins, or to clean up my Roman coins, and really comes in handy, and I've used it a little bit on some model stuff, so this should come in handy, and I don't have to complain about my lighting situation anymore. So, that's kind of where we're at. I'm going to get started on putting some of this together, and then I'll show you how it kind of goes together, and then we'll throw some paint on it. And hopefully this will be interesting to some of you. I know it's a kind of an oddball kit, but hopefully you get something out of it. Okay, now I've gotten a little bit of progress done, and this intake has been a real pain in the butt. But I want to get this right because it is going to be a prominent feature on this. Now they came in halves. You had to glue the top half to the bottom half, in which case there's a seam line that runs right along down the inside. So what I've done is I've sanded it, and I've basically just taken an acrylic rod and wrapped my sandpaper around, and that way I can fit it in here like so and sand it. So I start off with like a 320 grit, and this is 1200 grit. Then I came along with my Mr. Surfacer 1000, and I just let it flow down in there. I shot some with a pipette along the seam lines and pretty much along the entire inside of the intake. And then I started the process over so I can get a nice smooth finish. And we'll see if we can get a little bit of light on here. But it's looking pretty good. So now what I have to do is I have to come back and paint the inside of this. Now I'm not exactly sure what color I'm going to use, but I may use the same color, which is like a dark gray that I use for the cockpit. I've already got this cockpit painted up, and I do have some clear coat on it and some wash. I just need to get this wash off of here and just kind of go in here and scrub this out, and then I can put a flat coat on it. But this new light that I got in handy with the magnifying glass really helped out with this. So I would definitely recommend this. I got this on Amazon for like 60, 70 bucks. But it really works out. And it really helped me get in here and get some details. So I'm going to get this painted up, and then I will get it fitted in. The cockpit, from what I gather, sits on here like this. So I may glue this onto here and then fit it into the fuselage, just like so. And on the back of this fits the turbine piece, and it should go in just like so. So that's basically what you're going to see. So I will paint this an aluminum color. This is probably a dark gray, and then see if I can get this closed up. All right, well, I'm getting closer, and this kind of looks like a mess. I put in the firewall that came with the kit, but something's a little cattywampus. I don't know if this is somewhat deformed, but it wasn't fitting right. So I ended up pulling that out, and I've got kind of a mess, but you're not going to see it once it's closed up. So what I've done is I've went ahead and pinned this section and this section so they fit right in here, and this is going to stretch it out and align at least where the wing root is, and that's going to be one of my most important spots. And then I can kind of manipulate that once I glue it together. But if we'll look right here, it's a little off, and these are warped just enough to where it's off just a little bit. So I think what I can do, since I've got these pinned, is I can kind of push it in and then glue it and epoxy it to where it's pretty much flush. So that's my remedy for that. Now, since I am putting this on a base, I'm going to be using my acrylic rod, and I don't really exactly know what diameter this is, but once I cut it down, it should be stable enough to hold the weight. And what I've typically done is taken my Magic Sculpt and created and filled that area in, and then I can drill it through, and it'll give me a good base a good foundation for me to shove this through, and it'll be nice and sturdy. Well, what I've done to kind of lighten the weight is I've just used a plastic straw that fits over this. So this will be like a little tube, so it'll be nice and sturdy. But it is kind of a flimsy straw. But I've got it in there at the angle that I want, and I've got it initially just super glued. So now I'm going to take my 5-minute epoxy. And I like this Bob Smith Industry stuff. This is really good. Good stuff, especially when you're dealing with resin. And what I've learned is when I ship resin kits, if I can use 5-minute epoxy, I use it, because super glue is so brittle that if you hit it sharply, the super glue is going to pop apart. So try to use 5-minute epoxy. It's a lot sturdier than just using super glue by itself. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a big gloop of this, and I'm going to reinforce this. Even though it is flimsy, it's not going to matter as long as both ends are nailed down, because the force that's going to be exerted on this by sticking the rod through is not going to bend it or otherwise deform it. But I do want it nice and sturdy. So I'm just using my 5-minute epoxy. Now, once that dries, then I'm going to flip it over, because 5-minute epoxy before it dries has a tendency to go with the force of gravity. So I'm going to keep it down like this, get that all nailed down, then I'll come back and I'll put 5-minute epoxy on the top and kind of hold it until it sets up, just so I don't have it flowing down the tube. And I should have a nice tube so I can stick this in here just like so. So that's what I'm going to do. Once I get that done, then I can work on getting these together, and then I can put this little top part that goes in here. I'll probably wait and do that after I close it up, this little top part. Let me grab it real quick. This is kind of tight. Now, this little section here goes along the top. Right along here, and it's going to take some adjustment and fitting to get it correct and even. So I don't know, I'm just going to have to deal with that when I get there. So that's going to be another challenge. And then I've got these windshield, or the canopy that is vacuum formed, and I always hate dealing with these. So I've got this, got the general cut down, and once I get these together then and get that part in, then I can start trying to fit this. And these are always a pain in the butt, trying to get them right and get them to where they fit well. So another challenge that we'll have to tackle. Then once I get that done, I'm going to come along and I'm going to attach the wings and the rear tail fin, and I'm going to probably end up pinning that as well, and then 5-minute epoxying that. So I think that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and on the next one we'll get the wings on, get the cockpit canopy on, and then probably start priming and painting. So I'll see you on the next one.